What's up, everyone? It's Flex coming to you again with another video. And I want to talk about the Liberal government today and the fact that they're bragging yet again about the fact that wages have outpaced inflation since they were reelected to power. And I want to remind everybody that when they talk about this, they ignore income tax. They ignore the marginal tax rate. So I'm just going to talk about Ontario because that's where I live. So that's the tax rates that I know off the top of my head. So for anyone living in Ontario making between about 57,000 and 105,000, which is the largest tax bracket, it actually incorporates two tax brackets, but the difference between them is negligible. The marginal tax rate is more or less 30%. Okay, more or less 30%. So every raise that you get, the government takes 30% right off the top because that's the marginal tax rate. It's not the average tax rate. I know people will argue with me about average tax rates, blah, blah, blah. I'm talking about marginal tax rates because that's what matters. When you get your end of year raise or beginning of year raise, it's about that time that people start getting their raises for the next year or the previous year. That's what matters to you is your marginal tax rate, not your average tax rate, right? Because every additional dollar that you get is taxed at that rate. So for the biggest tax bracket in Ontario, that marginal tax rate is 30%. Okay? So in Canada, since 2020 to the end of 2024, the consumer price index has increased about 17.6%. Inflation in Canada for 2025 was 2.2%. So the CPI numbers aren't out yet for 2025, but we can estimate them adding inflation to the 17.6, which gets you to almost 20% increase in the consumer price index since 2020. So they have their basket of goods that they analyze. So if you think about the fact that we've had a 20% increase in the consumer price index and that the largest part of the working class has a marginal tax rate of 30%, that means that they would need almost a 30% increase in their salary over the last 5 years just to maintain the same purchasing power. Nobody is getting those kinds of raises. Absolutely not. So the government is, at best, being disingenuous. And really, at the end of the day, they're gaslighting everybody. They're gaslighting Canadians to try and convince them that they're better off when they're not. Every year, if you're getting a cost of living allowance that's at pace with inflation, even if it's a little bit above or a little bit below, but if it's kind of mimicking inflation, every year you're getting worse off. So just remember that. Every year under this government, you're getting worse off. That's it for me. Peace.